Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Samar and this is my pottery corner. Today we are going to trim the bowl we made in the last video. Before we trim, it's always a good idea to inspect the piece in terms of thickness to know where to trim and how much to shave off. For this bowl, I need to remove some clay from the base. The first step is centering. Here I'm applying some water or sleep on the wheel head before putting the piece down. Then few taps to bring the piece to the center. This technique requires a little bit of practice. Once the piece is centered, it needs to be anchored to the wheel head. Since we applied some sleep, I can tap the piece multiple times so that some suction is created, which helps to keep the bowl attached. Just to be on the safe side, I'm also using a couple of lumps of clay to securely attach my piece to the wheel head to make sure that the piece doesn't go anywhere throughout the trimming process. The next step is marking where we need our foot to be. Whether you want to have a narrow foot or a wide foot, you can score the limits here. Everything outside and everything inside should be removed. Now the actual trimming part. I'm using a spinner tool to apply some downward pressure to the piece and use my trimming tool to shave off the clay from the base all the way to my markings. This needs to be done gradually, since in each pass you cannot remove more than a certain amount of clay. The idea is to make the bowl as light as possible without severely compromising the strength of the final product, and the outer profile at the end should match the inner profile of the bowl, with more or less the same thickness across the piece. You really need to take your time here, gradually shaving the clay off until you reach your desired shape. Nothing in pottery is fast, it's all about patience. When trimming the foot, I try to keep in mind that ideally the depth inside the foot should match the depth outside, as if the foot is sitting on a continuous surface of clay. As I trim the foot, I gently tap the bottom of the piece to get an idea of how much clay is still there to be removed. For me, it's really easy to mess up this part, as I have made big holes before at the bottom of my pots in the past, rendering the pieces completely useless. I have multiple trimming tools that came in my starter kit, but I really don't enjoy any of them. I'm in a hunt for a good multi-purpose trimming tool, so if you have anything in mind, please share your thoughts. At the end of the trimming session, I like to use my fingers to clean up the edges of the foot. This helps me smoothen out all the small pieces or shavings that might be attached. Okay, we're almost done, so let's remove the lumps of clay and do some final touches. This step is completely optional. Here I'm adding some embellishment to the piece, adding some texture like grooves that the glaze can have some breakout at the edges. It will provide some interesting visuals at the end once the piece is glazed. Alright, let's Let's remove the piece and see how much we have messed up the rim. Since I have applied some sleep to the wheel head, usually the rim deforms with the pressure that we applied during the trimming. So I need to do a little bit of cleanup on the rim before finalizing the work. At the end, I just run a damp sponge on the rim to make sure it's completely smooth. Finally, it's time to add my maker's mark on the base. I learned that in order to do so, it's best to apply some counter pressure from the inside so that the pressure of the stamp does not deform the bottom of the piece. I'm using a piece of compressed foam here. And here is the final product. I'll put it on the shelf to completely dry before I bisque fire it. Thank you for watching and see you next time.